Thank you for staying with us. It is time for us to look at the stimulus package of the federal government. I have with me an economist, Dr. Usaze Iyuha. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So let's look at the stimulus package. When the coronavirus outbreak began, a few months into that, the federal government came up with its package. There were relief packages, there were stimulus package. So let's examine some of those and how effective they've been a few months afterwards.
All right.
For one, the federal government started by injecting money into some sectors through the CBN. Now, one sector that was not included at that time was the transport sector. But with the release of the NBS reports of the economy, second quarter of 2020, the federal government had to include the transport sector by saying it's going to inject 10 billion naira into the transport sector.
Yeah. Thank you, viewers. The pandemic, we always knew that it was going to hit hard on the Nigerian economy, because the Nigerian case it's unique in the sense that it hits us from two fronts. From the oil side, because prices of oil fell. The 2016 recession was just a case of fall in crude oil prices leading to the recession. But this particular one is a case of both fall in oil prices and the non-oil sector, which used to bail out the economy because it contributes higher to GDP, also was affected because of lockdown. So fall in crude oil prices, then the non-oil sector, because of lockdowns, manufacturing industries were closed, our trade partners all, so we couldn't import, we couldn't export. So this is the steepest minus 10.10% GDP decline. This is the steepest we have had in close to about 2 decades. So it was only imperative that government has to come in to provide, create palliative measures, because that's really the way to go. In 2016, the America recession, we saw the President Obama administration putting money into some ailing companies, Detroit and the others. So it was only the way to go, intervention policies by government. So we can look at both the fiscal and the monetary side of it.
Okay.
Under the monetary side, CBN rolled out a number of packages. And for me, there has always been an argument between monetary policy and fiscal policy, which is more effective. But I think the fiscal policy has a more direct impact on welfare. You know, it's whatever, just like the 774,000 jobs government talked about. The citizens get it directly. The impact is direct. So probably that's why we talk about the effect being higher with fiscal, but monetary has to go through intermediaries. CBN gives probably directives to banks to implement either reduce interest rate or increase interest rate. Then investors now take advantage of this directive before it trickles down to the citizens. So there's an indirect and a direct impact. But for me, the monetary part of it is more certain, because there's less human factor in it. Unlike the fiscal policy angle, where it has to, somebody disburses these funds. You are giving out palliatives, you are giving out school feeding program, somebody is involved. So it depends on the person's integrity to either really disperse these funds to the target participants or keep it in his pocket. But the monetary policy is more effective in the sense that these are moved by circulars, directives, there is no cash involved. So CBN gave out a number of palliative measures. It released a 100 billion fund to the health sector to provide for healthcare practitioners, pharmaceutical companies who want to expand their healthcare, their hospitals, and so on. So 100 billion was allocated for that as loans to them. A 1 trillion naira loan was also given to manufacturing, production, and all other industries who would want to access these loans to boost their agriculture and their production. Then we had the moratorium, extension on 1 year moratorium on all credit facilities. We had a reduction in interest from 9% to 5% on credit facilities given by the CBN. We also had 50 billion given at for targets vulnerable households.
SMEs and households.
There were many. Then also CBN brought this unification of exchange rates at both parallel and interbank exchange rates to ensure uniformity, to reduce the pressure on the exchange rate. So there were many policies that were, and very, very nice ones. Then fiscal policy side to government, and a notable of it was the 3-month extension moratorium payment on these market money, trader money, farmer money, and so on. There was also a moratorium on those federal government assisted loans given by Bank of Industry, Bank of Agric, Nexim Bank, and so on. So there was a 3-month extension moratorium. There was also the 1.1 trillion given to manufacturing industries too. Then even this electricity tariff, it was to take place, I think, January. They postponed it to April to July. Then fuel price was also reduced. The VAT filing in for VAT payments was shifted from 21 first day of the month to the last working day. So there were a number of palliatives given, rolled out, which were very eye-catching and heartwarming. Yeah, but the problem we have had in these palliatives have been implementation. But those were basically the palliatives that were rolled out by government, which was necessary. If under Keynesian theory in economics, the Keynesians went to the extreme by even saying that during a recession, government should pay a certain number of people. In the morning, they should dig somewhere. Then in the evening, pay another set of people to cover the whole.
Increase government spending.
Just to increase government spending and therefore increase aggregate demand. And usually aggregate demand is the driver of the economy. So when aggregate demand increases, expectedly production will also increase, then output increases. So it's very important, and these palliatives had to be rolled out. Okay,
now, but in spite of these palliatives that were rolled out even before the second quarter, the second quarter report still wasn't good, and it is not really expected that third quarter would do any better. What could have been the problem?
Yeah, the MBS computations are sort of lagged. This report was from March to June.
Yes.
So these palliatives, I think some of them came out later.
Okay.
And probably most are still in the process of implementation.
Okay.
And also, the major part of the issue is oil prices, which is the major problem, has still not done better.
Okay.
The prices are still very low. And for the first time, we saw that oil grew negatively. It was -6.6. Then also the first time in like 4 decades now, you have the non-oil sector performing at a negative contribution to GDP. So non-oil sector recorded negative growth rates. So it's a situation that, and because the oil has not still increased in the global market, the prices has not still increased, it also has an effect on the non-oil sector. Okay. They seem to be independent, but they are not independent in the sense of it, because the non-oil sector, which is manufacturing, agri, they still rely on foreign exchange. You want to carry out a large agricultural farm, you still need tractors, all these are imported. And oil is what brings in the foreign exchange for you to carry out this. So I think because the oil sector, prices of oil have still not improved, and then the palliatives, I think, are still in the process of being rolled out. Then also probably the human factor too I talked about. If these palliatives really got to the end users is still another issue. But we knew that second quarter would be that very poor. So we would expect that in the third quarter, when these palliatives have now been probably well implemented, then there should be an increase, should reflect in the statistics for the third quarter.
While we're waiting for the third quarter reports, this past week, or this week we're in, 2 increases happened. We had one. On September 1, there was a report that electricity tariff hike has been approved. And then we also got to know about the increase in the price, pump price of petrol. So these 2 things were majorly relief that helped businesses, especially the SMEs. How would this impact on the stimulus package and the relief of the government? How would this impact on the economy at the end of the day?
For electricity tariffs, it was something that was expected, because the government talked about it in January, talked about it, they kept postponing it, April. In fact, the administration of Jonathan has always been something on the table for them to implement. But the discourse, as we have always mentioned, the discourse have put pressure on government that the prices that are obtaining are not competitive enough for them to supply electricity to household consumers, businesses as expected. That prices are not as competitive, and so it's not also attracting other investors into the sector. So it's something that would always have taken place. I don't think we can run away from it. Yeah, because it's a private sector involvement, something, so government can only act as regulatory agent. So it's something that we expected. It's probably the timing that's an issue. But, you know, government has complained that government is also in a dire situation. They have been borrowing, taking loans from one agency to the another, World Bank and so on, China. So at this point, they are trying to relieve themselves of all the commitments, subsidy commitments that they've been into. And there are also conspiracy theory that they are about to access an IMF loan. So these are some of the conditions to remove subsidies from electricity, fuel. So it's something that we always expected to come. But I have a problem with the fact that we have not put the discourse to task enough. There should be some preconditions for the increase in tariffs. I don't think it should just be a straitjacket, so we increase it. What obligations have we brought this discourse to the table to reach and say, okay, let's see something. Let's see you metering individuals. Let's see you providing more infrastructure in the downstream, in the distribution sector. Then we increase. Instead of just increasing, then you promise that you would increase supply, then it continues again. Distribution has still not increased. It's still 5,000 megawatts. So I would have expected that they would have.
The increase was effective 1st of September.
1st of September.
So maybe we'll have to wait till the end of the month to see.
Yeah, fine, yeah. But I thought that there should have been some preconditions. There should have been some commitment. They can go to take, they can go and take loans. They can go and take loans if we really want to bring them to commitment. They can go and take loans, and let's see that there's some some activity going on rather than just increase, because the increase has led to almost a 50% increase, if 100%. Some people have bought electricity tariff. So I buy 76 megawatt for 2,000. It's about 10. So it's like half. It's like 100% increase. So I think the increase is that much enough not to have committed them to something. But it has, we hope that the promise is that they also need this increase to finance whatsoever improvement they have to make. So let's hope and see that before a third increase or the next increase, then we should see some visible improvements in the sector. Then for the petroleum deregulation, it's also been a song that we've been hearing, that deregulation of the downstream sector or the petroleum sector. Yes, it's something that was always going to happen. They talked about it happening in phases. You know, the government was very smart during the pandemic when they took advantage of the fact that when prices went down in the global market, so they brought fuel down to as much low as 123 naira. So with the impression that people now feel, okay, when things were low, you paid low. So when it's high now, you should also expect to pay high. So it's something that also was supposed to happen.
But let's look at the increase in oil price from when it was brought down to as low as 123 naira per liter. And now that it's been increased to as high as 162 naira per liter. Is the increase commensurate?
Okay, with global prices.
Yes.
Yeah, it depends. You know, most times they bring some computations into landing costs, freight charges, and so the last report I heard it takes about $120 to bring it to this shore. Then freight, I think it's about $10, landing charges. So everything computed together is what in their computations gave 151 naira per liter, which is the lifting cost from the depot.
Okay.
So by the time ex-depot price. So by the time the retailers bring in their home profit, that's what has taken it to about 161, 162 thereabout. Yeah, but I have a problem with the fact that every country we know subsidizes something. America, they subsidize milk. British, they subsidize wheat. There's always something that a government subsidizes.
Is the federal government in any position to subsidize anything right now, considering our debt profile and other obligations?
Yeah, if there's transparency, if there's accountability, I don't think it's so much of a burden, because the accusation has been the fact that there have been fake marketers who come up to file for subsidy payments.
Okay.
You have people who have nothing to do with petroleum marketing, who, because they are associated with some political influence, they file in subsidy requests to be paid subsidy. Exactly, allegations. We also hear of people marketers who take fuel to other countries without supplying. But I think if the subsidy is restricted to marketers, true marketers who import these products and sell it at the subsidized rate, and it's just only them who this subsidy is paid to, then I think it's not so much of a burden on government. That's my thought, because the government still has, petrol is $41 per litre now, times about 1.8 million barrels that has been produced. The country still has money. But I think it's the subsidy payments, subsidy tax.
It's deep.
Subsidy tax, that's what is really affecting the burden, causing the increased burden on government. So if it's restricted to true marketers, I think it's something that government can handle.
Okay. Now, so what do we go from here? What do we do? We still have about 4 months to the end of the year. I knew that by January, some of these stimulus would have expired. For instance, the moratorium would have expired, and some other benefits may have also expired. What do we do?
Yeah, so most of these palliatives, we know they are basically short-term measures.
Okay.
Yeah, the moratorium is 3 months. They want on trader money.
Which may have expired
soon. Yeah, and and you know, these 100 billion to healthcare, 50 billion they are loans. They are really not. They're not
grants.
Yeah, they are not grants. They are loans, so they have to be paid. So, and also, even the 77th job is for 6 months, so they are all short-term measures. But I think in the long term, the very most important or the vital thing that government should be concerned about now should be macroeconomic stability, macroeconomic management of the economy. We should make the economy more attractive to private investors. From all over, investors we know are going out of the country, are going to neighboring Ghana.
We keep having decline of foreign direct investments.
Exactly. Foreign remittances have also dropped, foreign direct investors. So I think there should be now conscious efforts towards making the economy attractive to investors. Beyond just the normal, we should also look at bottlenecks in setting up industries, setting up companies in Nigeria, because most of the complaints usually is that you go to CAC, you want to get a document, it takes you donkey years, you go to ITF, and I think the paper documents that have to be done to register are just too many. You do ITF, you do NSITF, you do CAC, BP. So I think there should be cut down on most of those bottlenecks. So
bottom line, the ease of doing business is what we need in Nigeria.
In the long term.
In the long term. All right, thank you very much, Dr. Osaze Yuha, for coming on the show. It's been a wonderful one having you here.
Thank you very
much. And thank you for watching. I am Blessing AJ. Until next week, take care of yourself.